One of the things that I didn't get a chance to talk about in the federal budget video is the first home loan deposit scheme. Since majority of my loyal audience who gently taps the like button are likely going to be first home buyers, not to mention as an Asian man, I've been pressured to get a home since I was 14, I wanted to give my take on the current real estate market and whether if it is worthwhile leveraging the first home loan deposit scheme. Of course, everything in this video is just my opinion, not financial advice at all. So if you do need help with investing, make sure you go see a real professional. So without further ado, let's go! The first thing we should do is to talk about what exactly is the first home loan deposit scheme. Put simply, the objective of the scheme is just to help first home buyers own a home sooner rather than later. To do that, the government is providing a guarantee to participating lenders, which will enable first home buyers to buy a home with just a 5% deposit with no lender's mortgage insurance costs. Normally, with a 5% deposit, you will have to pay tens of thousands of dollars in lender's mortgage insurance costs. For example, let's say I'm super lavish and I want a home in Sydney that costs $950,000. Without the first home loan deposit scheme, I will have to pay upwards of $40,000 additional dollars in lender's mortgage insurance costs with a 5% deposit. With the scheme, I can buy a $950K house with a 5% deposit with no additional LMI costs. Of course, you still have to pay for all the other expenses like legal, stamp duty, so on and so forth. Now, the tricky thing about the scheme is that it only applies to newly built homes, since it's also part of the plan to create more jobs in the construction sector. To be eligible under the scheme, you can't be a baller earning $125,000 per year, and you can't be a power couple with a combined income of $200,000 or more. There are only 10,000 places available, and the price ceiling for the houses that you can buy have been increased with the new federal budget. Before you get super hyped, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. You see, according to Rate City, at a 5% deposit, depending on the value of your home you are getting, you're going to save anywhere between $60,000 to about $142,000 with a 5% deposit. And of course, even more money goes into your pocket because you don't have to pay for lender's mortgage insurance. Now, if we take a look at the difference of monthly payments on a 5% deposit versus a 20% deposit, we can see that the difference is anywhere between $300 to about $600 depending on the property value. And the interest payment calculation is done based on the CBA repayment calculator. If it's a 5% deposit, I am using 3.13% at a 10% deposit. And with a 20% deposit, it's just 2.69%. Over a 30-year period, the extra interest you have to pay is anywhere between $59,000 to about $141,000. These are not small amounts by any means. That is a hefty price tag to pay, and that's not even taking into account that housing prices may decline in the future or even interest rates going up, so then there are extra interest costs. More on the Australian property market in just a second. The question on my mind is whether the savings from the deposits and the lender's mortgage insurance costs going to outweigh the extra interest costs in 30 years. If we add the deposit savings with the LMI savings for a property that's worth $950,000, we are going to have an extra $180,000. If we don't touch that money, adjust that money by the historical consumer price index of 2.6% per year, towards the end of that 30 years, you would actually have $1,200 extra dollars after you pay for that extra interest cost. That's assuming that nothing goes wrong with fiat currency and Bitcoin doesn't take over the world. What if we invest that deposit savings into the most boring asset class in the world, index funds? Now, the ASX All Ordinary Index tracks the top 500 companies in Australia by market capitalization, and that has returned 9.4% per year over the last 30 years. 9.4% is incredibly optimistic given where our world is at currently, so I have a separate column for a more conservative 5% return per year. If I invested my deposit savings over a 30-year period at a 9.4% return per year, at the end of that 30 years, I will have between $800,000 to about $2 million. And at a 5% return, I will have approximately $250,000 to about $500,000. Whether you're getting a 5% return or a 9.4% return, the returns that you're getting far outweighs the extra interest costs you have to pay over a 30-year period. But what if I purchase a home with a 20% deposit and I invest the monthly repayment differences? At a 9.4% return, if I invest that amount every single month, at the end of 30 years, I will have anything in between $500,000 to about $1 million. And at a 5% return, I will have approximately $260,000 to about $480,000. Surprisingly, because you are investing on a monthly basis, the compound interest from a 5% return in this scenario actually ends up to be more than if you were to take on the risk of buying a house at a 5% deposit. If we do an extra scenario where we invest the savings from the deposits and the lender's mortgage insurance, this scenario actually outperforms both scenario 1, where we only invest the deposit savings into stock market, and scenario 2, where we purchase a home with a 20% deposit and invest the monthly differences. If you're interested in playing with this spreadsheet, I have created a copy for you to play with in the description box below. Okay, this is what we've learned so far. To be eligible for the first home loan deposit scheme, you can't be a baller owning more than $125,000 per year. Under the scheme, there are only 10,000 places available, and the home that you purchase needs to be newly built home. And over a 30-year period, it seems like if you were to invest your deposit savings and the lender's mortgage insurance costs, it seems to build the most wealth over a 30-year period, on top of the extra interest you will have to pay. But here's my problem with my analysis. 1, I haven't taken into account a potential housing price correction, and whether the benefits of investing your deposit savings and LMI will far outweigh those pricing corrections. Second, the returns from the equity market is assuming you don't practice your market pullout game, especially during a market downturn. And how many people can realistically do that? Not many. Third, I haven't taken into account that interest rate may rise in the future. And if interest rate goes up, it's natural that your interest costs will also go up with it as well. My point is, my scenario analysis is not perfect, but it does help me to think about the opportunity cost of going down different paths.
Yeah, okay, cool story, bro. But is now a good time for property?
Well, housing prices is a delicate balance between people who want to buy houses and the supply of houses. On the demand side of the equation, low interest rate makes it cheaper to borrow money, and employment enable people to go get a loan. And of course, affordability would determine who can actually buy the houses. And just for your information, I am simplifying things so that it's easier to understand. With low interest rates, tick, but everything else, not really. We know that ABS have said that unemployment is about 6.8%, but that number is seasonally adjusted. Roy Morgan classifies unemployment as someone looking for a job regardless of when. So that would be a better representation of what's actually happening in the real world. Of course, we know that unemployment peaked in early 2020, but those metrics have since came down because of the massive amount of stimulus that's been pumped into the system. And a lot of small businesses were kept afloat because of that stimulus. With 106 job seeker to every 1 job post, and the stimulus checks is ending in March 2021, are all the incentives in the federal budget enough to help people to get employed fast? I won't talk about universal basic income in this video, but my point is that until we can solve the employment challenge in front of us, I do see demand chilling out a little bit in the near future. Okay, what about supply for real estate? Listings, according to SQM research, have declined nationally by 1.2% compared to a month ago, and declined by 7.4% compared to 12 months ago. The challenge with the supply side is that these numbers are largely contained by the 6-month mortgage interest holiday. And with a high employment rate, which affects both people paying the mortgage and people paying the rent, this, in my opinion, might lead to a higher than anticipating listings in the very near future. If the market does get flooded with excess supply from distress selling, then it's likely that housing prices will also be corrected in the near future. Now, it's important to know that there are no certainties in life, just probabilities. And until the employment situation gets better, it's my personal view that the housing prices will get a further correction in the near future. But what do you think? Am I being overly pessimistic with my view? This video is made possible because of my patrons. They educated me in areas where I need more refining, and they support me so that I can make better videos for the community. On that note, if you want to be part of my fortnightly Q&A and get access to some additional content pieces, consider supporting this channel via Patreon. Nevertheless, thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end, and remember to gently smash that like button right there, subscribe to my channel, click onto the bell so that when I release future videos, you'll be the first one to know. I left a video on the screen that I think you'll really enjoy, so consider clicking on that as your next video. Until next time, my name is David. Auto will always do the honors, and see you very, very soon.